This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and in today's episode, we're going to be covering a couple different things, but I'm going to give you a little review of Jason Aldean's new bar on the Las Vegas Strip, which opened earlier in January, and I will also be talking about a recent thing that I saw on Twitter about like a food Vegas traveler who comes to Vegas quite often, and then kind of posed the question of like, I want food recommendations, but like, don't tell me that it's off the strip. And I thought it actually sparked a really interesting conversation just because I think, yes, there are amazing restaurants off of the strip and great local properties that are fantastic for locals, which it's great if tourists can go there too. But I think there's sort of like this disconnect of people who want to recommend these places to people that are visiting from Las Vegas, maybe for the first time, and don't really know how far things are. And this also goes to a much larger conversation of influencers who are paid to go to these local spots and then push this sort of narrative that these places are good when some of them really aren't. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into sort of how that all works. I've done one of these episodes before where I talked about influencers in the past in Vegas, but this will be a sort of a broad scope of, in general, like how doing recommendations works for tourism, especially in Las Vegas, especially on the Strip, which is very different than places like Los Angeles or New York, because we do have one center that is, you know, the Las Vegas Strip and Fremont Street, which are our tourist hubs. And that is where most of our tourists are going to be spending most of their time. And I want to get into it. Just want to let you guys know that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm really excited about this episode. So here we go. Okay, everybody, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. So let's actually start with the thing that I did most recently that I'm really excited to share, was that I went to Jason Aldean's new bar and grill, honky tonk, whatever you want to call it, over at right in front of the Aria. It's kind of hard to explain where it's at, like if you've never been to Vegas before. It's actually on the corner of Harmon and Las Vegas Boulevard on the bridge. So on the bridge that connects the Crystal Shopping Mall to the Cosmopolitan, right on the corner. It's 2 floors of Jason Aldean's new restaurant and honky tonk, which is fabulous on the inside. So the closest comp to it just opened, which is Old Red, which I think most people that have come to Las Vegas or visiting that loves country music have visited Old Red at this point. And I have to say, like, it's not even a competition. Jason Aldean's bar is 10 times better than Old Red. I have so many ways that I could just explain it. I think the food is better for one, but let's just start with the layout in general. So there is obviously a difference. Old Red is right on Las Vegas Boulevard on the corner of Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard that overlooks the Bellagio fountains from across the street, obviously. But it's 4 floors, but it's sort of deceiving because the floors are very, very small in terms of square footage because so much of the floors, first through the 3rd floor, have a big giant opening because that's how you're able to see the band. So this is good if you are sitting on the railing, but other than that, not a lot of space at Old Red. It doesn't feel like a place that you can go honky-tonk dancing and really just sort of walk through and easily navigate the space. It's actually really, really difficult, and there's always a line to get in, and not in a good way. There's a difference between having a line because it's so full on the inside because everybody wants to be there, and the other way of being it's a capacity issue. And that's what I think Old Red has a problem with. And I also, everything felt very Caesars, if you will, which, I mean, again, this is a knock on Caesars, but it just feels like it's not as high quality as it is over at Jason Aldean's bar. When I went to Jason Aldean's bar, I went in, and right away, big open doors. You're able to walk right in. You see the restaurant space, multiple bars. They actually had they had 2 bars on the walk-in floor, and on the second floor they actually have 4 bars to pick from. And these are big bars. They have they have one, like, it's where the green tractor bar is, which is a big giant sort of rectangle which seats a lot of people, and you're able to get sort of the hybrid view of the strip, but also view of the stage point of view. Then you also has lots of TVs. Really great if you want to watch any sporting event. They do have the Super Bowl showing there. I believe it's $250 per person, for a ticket, essentially, to get in. And then they also have another like bar on the other end, which is the one that I sat at, that has a big giant TV screen on it. And obviously these are projectors or LED, and really fantastic, really nice bar layout, lots of different lots of different spirits to choose from. Good menus, like it's very approachable. And again, decent pricing for the Las Vegas Strip, but all had very high quality features. Like the chairs felt high quality. They felt very warm, very country. The ones over at Old Red were like more steel, sort of like that cheap sort of steel feeling to it, and did not like that. So overall, just higher quality stuff, and all the different features and fixtures inside of the Jason Aldean's bar just felt more stuff that I liked. They had nice leather leather booths for people. They obviously had regular tables. The sound was good, obviously depending on who was singing. There was live performances there throughout the day, which I think has become a staple of these two properties. But there was that. But they also had two bands. They had a band on the main floor, and then when you go to the second floor, which you don't even hear the stuff from the first floor, completely different vibe. Huge space. You can totally see it. I went during the afternoon, so it was not, full, because that space is for dancing and honky-tonking and all that other good stuff. But I could totally picture it full on a Saturday and Friday night. But like also able to still maneuver. Like it feels sort of like a club, for country people. And big giant bar, which is really nice. I didn't stay up there for too long just because I was sitting downstairs. But they did have a live band going, which had great sound. I'm really excited to check this place out on like a Friday when it's really bumping and there's people in there. Really excited. I think it's going to be a super popular spot. I really hope that people get behind it, because I think this place is just top notch. So really can't wait to experience Jason Aldean's on like a Friday or Saturday. It's big giant stage, really reminds you of something that you would see like in Nashville or Texas, which I think is cool. I think it's really cool that Vegas is getting a lot more country bars, because they're really great for hanging out. They also had like really cool like places to put your drinks around the staircase, because if it gets too full, that's where you can put your drinks. And I thought it was a great idea. So overall, love Jason Aldean's. Hopefully you guys can check it out when you come to Las Vegas. One of my recommends that I would recommend you do when you're in town is to check out Old Red. So, oh my goodness, I keep saying Old Red. Is to check out Jason Aldean's. Old Red's just been in my head for so long. So Jason Aldean's, definitely check it out. That would definitely be something that I'd like you guys to check out. So moving on, let's talk about the topic of the day, which is really just, social media, Vegas social media in general. So let me see here. So I have to kind of search through and make sure I find the post. So Adam Bauer, our Bauer Power Hour, who comes to Vegas and he, writes for stuff, and he's a gambler, at least from his Twitter page, and pretty cool. Like, I don't think we've had any bad run-ins, so that's nice. But going back to something that he put, so this is the post that he put on Twitter, which was, Las Vegas locals would be like, the best food in Vegas is out here, and it's some random strip mall by their house. I didn't come to Vegas to go to your cul-de-sac. I came here to lose my ass in some gaudy pyramid and eat overpriced food next to fake Lake Como. And then there was like a follow-up that said, me, I want to overpay for this dumb kitschy stuff. Locals, well, have fun overpaying for that dumb kitschy stuff. So it is what it is. But I think he did mean it, and he did actually clarify this when I I posted about it. He says, I kind of meant it as like a joke, which when he posted it, which I get it. I get the joke. And I think he's right. I think it's really annoying, and this is just a Vegas local thing in general, is that Vegas is kind of a big city. It's not as big as Los Angeles, not by any means as big as Los Angeles. It's not even big as Phoenix, Arizona, to be honest. But it's a relatively large city, and there's lots of traffic and lots of different sort of communities, just like any other big city. You have the Strip and Fremont Street, which is known as the tourism corridor, or the tourist corridor. Hotel corridor is also what it's known as. And then you have Summerlin, which is sort of the Beverly Hills of Las Vegas. Then you have Henderson, which is also known as Hendertucky, but it can also be parts of it are, somewhat high end depending on how far away you get from the Strip. Then you have North Vegas, then you have East Vegas, and then you have Southwest Vegas, which are kind of similar in parts, in general. But anyways, so getting to the heart of this is that you're always going to say that what's near your house is the best it possibly is. I am obviously an exception to the rule, because I go to the Strip quite often, and honestly, I do think things on the Strip are better than local places, but you have to see where locals are coming from. A lot of locals do not like to go out and pay the prices that you have to pay on the Las Vegas Strip. I usually spend my extra money on stuff on the Strip, so like drinks or food. I'll do that, as an experience. So, and I do this obviously for the pod too, just to sort of experience different things and sort of present them to you on, the experience that I had. So most locals are not exploring the Las Vegas Strip. So they always think this is really what I hate about Vegas locals in general, is that, oh, it's on the Strip, so it has to be bad, overpriced, and disgusting. Well, the thing is you're not going. Like, you don't experience those things. You don't know that it's like super high quality every single time when you go to these properties. Like, the reason I go to the Collins Bar at Fontainebleau, or I go to Delilah's, is because I know that they're going to be consistently high level. It's like when you go to your local bar, you're going to get consistent, like, mediocre cocktails, mediocre everything, to be honest, just personally speaking. Like, let's just say, like, your rating is a 10. If I got an old fashioned at a local bar, it's going to be like a 7 at most. And it's not their fault. A lot of times, like, local bars do not have the ingredients that you need to make a decent old fashioned. Like, they don't have a giant cubed ice. They don't have, like, the bitters that you're supposed to use for an old fashioned. They don't mix it like they're supposed to for an old fashioned. They may not have the orange peel to peel it. So they might know how to make it, but it's just like that's not their MO at those properties, because they deal with, volume and locals that have, are paying a certain price. Like that old fashioned that I just talked about, that you would get at like a PT's, is probably going to be like $12, like at the most, like $12. And that might be like a little high, but let's just say $12, which the same old fashioned, if you got that on the Strip at the Collins Bar, or the Delilah's, it's $20. It's going to be a $20 cocktail. And the thing is that I don't drink a lot. Like, I usually have sort of a limit to how much I do drink, and I have sort of a budget in my head. So I'm willing to pay the $21 for that cocktail, because I know that I'm going to get the highest possible quality cocktail that I can. Like, when I go to the Collins Bar and order old fashioned, I'm expecting it to be a 9 or a 10 every single time. 9 or a 10 every single time. Honestly, it's usually a 10. So I know that I'm going to get that consistency out of those bartenders, because, again, when you ask these bartenders on the Strip, like, hey, like, what did you do before this? And, you get their story. Like, 3 out of the 4 people who work as bartenders at the Collins Bar were competition bartenders. Like, they know what it takes to make a cocktail. I've done many times where I go and say, I don't know what I want. Like, just make me something cool. And they whip something up awesome. And I never am like super disappointed. I think I've been disappointed like once. And the thing is that I asked to try it. I even went to Wakuta, which is at the Palazzo, and they're like, hey, like, what do you think about this cocktail? Let's try this out. And they're willing to explore those spaces. And I think as long as you're understanding that, hey, you may not like it, it's okay. And that actually builds camaraderie with the bartender, which isn't your problem. Like, as a tourist, like, it's not your problem to have to build a relationship with that bartender, because you're going to be here like once. And that's the thing I also want to get across, and this is sort of rounding back to the beginning of the conversation, is that you come to Vegas to have an out of this world experience that you want to be able to tell people about. You want to be able to remember. Like, the thing is when you go to like someplace off the Strip, and obviously there are experiences like Partage, Sparrow and Wolf, which these are like high-end contemporary dining cuisine experiences. Like Partage is, it's like $500 a person to go to Partage in a strip mall, which is kind of fun to explain that. Like that's definitely an experience. But like how many times are you going to go to a place that's recommended to you that's off of the strip that you end up saying, oh, well, it was fine. It was like a 6 and it made me spend, 3 hours off of the strip or 3 hours away from everything else because I had to get to it, because you have to get there, eat your food, which, let's just say it's an hour and a half, then it's 30 minutes back to the strip. You're spending time doing that. It takes a lot of time to do all those things. And Vegas traffic, as many of you know who've been visiting, it's not easy to maneuver. So that's why I try to do my best to recommend things that are accessible to where you are going to be staying in Las Vegas. Obviously, if I get people who say, hey, I'm staying in Henderson, which honestly has never happened, or I'm staying at this property like Red Rock, also never happened, like in the 4 years that I've been doing this show. It's all, I've had people that say, hey, I'm going on a tour, which obviously takes you out of the strip and out of Fremont. But that's a tour. That's completely different. You have transportation to go there. You have a guide. It's a whole thing. Completely different. But I haven't had people say like, yeah, I'm staying at Red Rock. If you are staying at Red Rock, feel free to ask me, and I'll make my recommendations for things that are near Red Rock. It's so similar. It's just so funny that like you get so many people that start recommending things in their part of town. It's like, dude, I don't have a car to go there. Like I'm coming to Vegas. I'm flying on an airplane. The reason that people like coming to Vegas, one of the other reasons, is that we're very close to the airport, so you don't really need a car. Lots of Ubering, like to and from hotels. So people say, oh, well, then they can just Uber to like a local spot. No, it's a time thing. It's a time factor. So that's why I try to do my best to recommend things that are where you are going to be at. So the first thing that I'll ask when you ask me anything, if you ever ask, anybody who plans things for, trips and such, especially Vegas, is, okay, so where are you staying? Or you take a palazzo? Okay, cool. That brings us into these restaurants along with these restaurant clubs, lounges in that space, because you're usually going to spend most of your time in the proximity of where you are living at. It's just inevitable. Obviously, if you're here for a couple of days, you're going to explore. But like if you're staying at MGM Grand, I'm not going to recommend a breakfast place at the Wynn, because the thing is like you can find comparable things that are at the Wynn near MGM Grand. Doesn't have to say that it's in MGM Grand, but you know what I mean. It's, especially unless it's like a specific restaurant. And always the thing that I was taught as a concierge was, if you are recommending things, there was obviously a chain of command in terms of how you recommended things. It's your hotel, your brand. So MGM would be my brand. And then you would go to then anything else that you would like to choose. But you want to make it as convenient for the guest as possible. So let's just use a random scenario here. Let's just say you're staying at New York, New York. You're staying at New York, New York. And you are going to see, let's just say, at the Bellagio. So that actually widens my range of things that I can recommend, because that means I can recommend things near the New York, New York. And then I can also recommend things at the Bellagio Hotel. In terms of restaurants. So like if you say have a show at 7 o'clock at the Bellagio, I would recommend you do dinner at, 5 o'clock at Gallagher's at New York, New York. If you wanted to, get ready and go right downstairs and eat at your property. You can also do it if you have a little bit more time. I would recommend, and this is always my thing because I was always a peace of mind person, was that you eat your dinner at the place where they're having the event. So I personally, if I was going to see at 7 o'clock at the Bellagio, I would get ready early, go to where the restaurant would be at the Bellagio. So I would pick, like, let's just say Prime or Mayfair Supper Club, or you can do Harvest if you want steak, again, that's contemporary American. And you're there. You make the reservation for 5:15. You eat there 2 hours. You eat there an hour and a half because you're going to have to eat, somewhat quickly. And you're out by, 7:45. And if it's 7:45, you can walk to the 6:45, you can walk over to the O Theater. So it's doable. By the way, if the show's at 7 and it ends at 8:30, maybe do dinner later. 7 o'clock's a tough time, to be honest. So like if I could recommend anything to anybody, I would recommend to always do the late show. Always do the later show because then it's much easier to sort of eat at a normal time and not be rushed. Like if you are going to do, because a lot of restaurants in Vegas open at 5:30. So if you're trying to hit like that 7 o'clock showtime, it's a really tight crunch. You know, it's really easy to hit a 9:30 showtime. If the show's at 9:30, you can dine at 7 o'clock. That gives you an hour and a half. Oh, still kind of pushing it. I would say you could do, if you have a 9:30 show, dine at like 6:30. That gives you 2.5 hours. You should be able to eat dinner in 2.5 hours. So I always recommend do the late show. Late show. Also, typically the late show has more availability and will usually be a little bit cheaper. Obviously, Cirque shows, it just depends. Like O is expensive every single time. But later shows tend to be a little bit more accessible. Don't know why. Probably the reason of why I just explained it. So really good tip. Really good tip today. But again, like people started going after this guy about, all the really good food is off of the strip. That's where you have to go for the authentic food. No, it's just because you like to, be on a budget, which is fine. A lot of people are on budgets, and that's where you eat. Like the thing is that people want things where you're going to be at. Like somebody asked me the other day, like, hey, like my friend really wants a shrimp cocktail. What would you recommend? Well, obviously, I could recommend you go get a shrimp cocktail at the Oyster Club at South Point. But, like, is this person staying at South Point for one? Are they going to want to drive and schlep all the way for this, $6 shrimp cocktail? No. I did recommend Fremont Street because Fremont Street is where the shrimp cocktail was, like, kind of invented. At least in Las Vegas, the Vegas shrimp cocktail. So that's what I recommended. I was like, hey, you could try this place and, it's going to be fine. Most of the time people want shrimp cocktails for an experience, like especially if it's like a cheap one. Or you can go to the Bellagio and you can go to Sadelle's and have like these tiger prawns, which are shrimp cocktails, essentially, giant. And it costs you like $30. So really it's up to you. So that's actually kind of a funny explanation is that no, I don't think you should be spending $30 for giant shrimp cocktails, but it's up to you. I leave it up to you to choose. But again, the strip itself, because people like to equate the strip as like Times Square. So that's a really big comp that we always get is that the strip is basically a really big Times Square. And like in a way, sure. Like, yes, that's where a lot of our tourist attractions are because that is where a lot of tourists are. So that's where you're going to find a lot of stuff. It's very bright. That's where it is. But it is nowhere near the same thing. I've been to Times Square. Yes, Times Square is like the touristy of tourist places. Like they have a Hard Rock Cafe. We do too. They also have, a TGI Fridays. They have a Denny's. Like, yes, they do have all of these chain restaurants. They don't have a lot of like high-end restaurants in that Times Square. And Times Square, again, is only like, it's a couple blocks for sure. It's huge. It's also where like all Broadway is. So it's like, yeah, we kind of need things that are near it. But obviously around Times Square, they have other steakhouses. Like I went with my mom to a steakhouse when I went. And it was, I believe, specific to New York. And it's like, yeah, like we get it. Like tourist things are next to tourist things. But on the strip itself, the strip has celebrity chefs, obviously, which again, it's a lot. Like we have a lot of celebrity chefs, but you have to always remember that they make sure that these are very high quality restaurants that are going into these spaces. It's very expensive to buy a space inside of a hotel. The rent is astronomically high. And this is typically where you get a lot of the better product in town because they have the apparatus to go fly to California, pick up those shrimp cocktails or fish, fly them to Las Vegas and get them to you, in the same day. So you have to look at that as why they usually will sometimes get the first pick. It's very rare that a local place will have first pick on seafood. It's just really difficult. Obviously, if you're talking about any of our like really high-end sushi restaurants, There are so many. That's probably one of the main things that you would maybe go off the strip for because of also the price difference. Like sushi on the strip is very expensive. I'm not going to lie to you. That's probably the one thing that if you are a sushi connoisseur, there are so many sushi restaurants in Chinatown or Japanese cuisine in general that yes, you'd probably want to go off the strip for that. And again, Chinatown is somewhat off the strip. It's like a 10-minute drive like a 10 or 15-minute drive from the Venetian Palazzo or Treasure Island or the Wynn. A lot of people like to recommend things that are like 30 minutes away, which is very far. Because again, you have to add traffic. But again, it's just one of those things. Like Chinatown has cool stuff in it, but like I've been to Chinatown near Partage, near Mas Por Favor, which Mas Por Favor is known as like a speakeasy. It's fine. It's okay. We have so many speakeasies on the strip now. It's more of the experience of like, hey, we're in a strip mall, which I think people all get really excited about saying like, hey, we're in a strip mall. But like, what if you've never been to that part of town? Like, what if I've never been to a part of LA that I have no idea that it's like super safe, but it looks super sketchy at nighttime? It's just very dark. I don't know people around there. I don't have a car. I can't just run into my car and like hide. You have to think about those things as somebody who recommends things in Vegas. So I really hate when just locals pop off and say, well, you don't know Vegas or you don't know this. It's like, no, dude, I just don't know your part of town. That's all it is. Like when I lived back in Tucson, where I'm from, I went to a high school that was in like, I wouldn't say it's like in the ghetto, but it's, it is what it is. It's a very like Hispanic neighborhood, which I'm also Hispanic, but I don't speak Spanish because I'm a terrible Mexican. But we had this thing like South 6, which was like fine. Like I drove down there and like you would go to Mexican restaurants and it was fine. But that was because we all kind of know that area and you understand that space, and I've been there with my parents before, is fine. Like, it's just you hang with those people and you understand. But, like, I wouldn't have somebody who doesn't know what that place is just go without somebody who, like, lives there or knows the situation or knows sort of the culture. So, again, it's just all sort of case by case. So, again, like, that's the thing. So, I know I talked kind of at length about that, but hopefully you guys got some good information about why, like, I recommend things on the strip because that's where you're going to be. And that's going to be the most convenient thing for you to do. It's also harder to have to recommend things on the strip when, you have to worry about budget and all this other fun stuff. So let's talk about those influencers. So I've gotten really annoyed of the Vegas influencer culture in the city. Just because it felt like it was so much more organic and fun a couple years ago, which is kind of why I don't do a lot of the food content anymore, because I do like check and see the numbers because I care about those things. Because it takes a lot. Like you go out and you have to experience all these things and then like nobody watches your stuff because it didn't hit the algorithm correctly. Because I've had stuff that hits, again, these are measly numbers compared to like a bunch of other people. But like I had a video hit, 11,000 views, which was really cool and lots of interactions. And even like the chef of that restaurant, or Roy Choi, posted it about the chef truck, which again, you can check this out, conciergeconfidential_LV. But like you see, and I spend my own money to go do these things. Like I go and like experience like these restaurants. So like a lot of times the food that I post is the actual food that I ate because I paid for it. And that's what I have. Of course, when you go as a group, which many of these influencers usually go at as an influencer event, or they go and they like to do one table and they film all these different pieces of food and also like waste food for content. Like you see a lot of people just post videos of them dipping lobster in the butter, which whatever, do your marketing thing. How many times can you do that and it be appetizing? But they all do those like together. And then they all post them all at the same time because the person who paid for them to go there or offered up the food for content free, like it's all about impressions all at the same time. Like that's why you see all the influencers go to, let's just use Golden Steer as the example. Golden Steer, by the way, has gotten so much pub from a lot of social media influencers in Vegas because of them. because of the influencers. They actually had to build like an extra wing to their restaurant, which is still really cool, but because so many people went because these people were effective at their jobs, which is good for them. It's fine. And Golden Steer also is good. It's fine, to be honest. I've eaten there. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. Anyways, the history part is really, really cool. The food is okay, but the history part is the really like next level reason of why you go to Golden Steer. But there's a reason why they all go together. They order all these fucking lobsters. They also do like the Cherries Jubilee and all this other stuff. And there's a reason why they all post it at the same time. They all sort of work it, schedule it out together, because then this restaurant hits the algorithm. So everybody talking about Vegas stuff, it hits, Golden Steer. And they're all, all in it together. And then they get whatever. They might tell you that they don't get paid for these posts, which for like something like Golden Steer where they go as a group, they may not get paid like all together, but they get paid in food. Like the food is complimentary. I know they tip, which they love to tell you how good tippers they are. I'm not going to lie. I do the same thing. I love to tell you guys how good a tipper I am, which, I think I'm fine. I think I'm an okay tipper. Because I see the same people all the time. So it feels like I'm a good tipper, but it's just, it's the same person. So I sort of feel indebted to them. So yeah. So just moving on from that is that they're all very cliquey. It's a very, very tight click. Like I'll use Norma Geely, who's a favorite for a lot of people, and I think she actually puts out really good content on YouTube. Although I would just hope she would learn how to enunciate Las Vegas. But again, she says Las Vegas altogether as one word. But she's really good. But she was kind of doing her own thing for a while. She had a couple different sort of like friend influencers that would pop in and out of her videos. They would sort of do, join in and sort of do a lot of these experiences together. But then, they slowly, once one gets enough followers, will start hooking up all together. So now it's just this giant clique of people doing one place, like Lotus of Siam, 1,000,000 times. I don't know. It's infuriating. Like, she became friends with Born and Raised, which, I mean, that girl's annoying as fuck. I'll say it right now. She's super, super annoying just because, you take the 15, so you're an idiot. No, I take the 15 because it's the fastest way to get up and down up and down Las Vegas Boulevard or up and down north and south from where I have to go to where my work is. I just remember there's a very popular video where she's like, well, why don't you go these other ways? It's like those other ways actually take longer to get to where I need to get to. So I don't need direction advice from Born and Raised. So that's her. And then they also have a couple other people, but that's the one, Vegas Ruby is another one. But they all just get together and they're in the same little groups. So just note, it's sort of like when you read the news, like you have to decipher and sort of understand where you're getting your information from. I mean, they all went to Unlock Vegas. They went to his new burger joint, and they all did like sort of a media blitz of his burger joint, which they're all friends, which I guess that's the biz. But again, just note like where you're getting your information from. So I know that was kind of like a lot of complaining, but it was also just trying to explain the unique ecosystem of where you get your, social media, information from. And again, I do a pod, so I can just sort of talk about these things. But hopefully that was interesting and a little bit of a peek inside of, how Vegas is depicted out to the world and how locals kind of need to rein it in on sort of how they recommend where things are and sort of take it easy. And yeah, I just really wanted to just sort of point that stuff out. So hopefully this was a fun episode for you guys to hear. At least you got a recommendation for Jason Aldean's in the first part of the episode. And hopefully you guys go there. So anyways, that was Concierge Confidential for this week. The Super Bowl is this weekend, so hopefully you guys picked the right team. Make sure to check out last week's episode if you're coming to Las Vegas and want to watch the Super Bowl anywhere you are. I really hope you guys enjoy your weekend. But again, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We'll try to keep these going, weekly as much as we can. And again, if you see me out in town, come up, say hello. But remember, keep it confidential.